free to look at whichever person speaking to, whichever way it's
just...
Right, I'm just going to set it recording now. Are you recording?
Yep.
Sound sync. Just sync up the things. So, sorry, what's your name?
Sheena.
Sheena, today's been an enlightenment for myself today. How do you feel about what's happened today?
I'm just grateful. I'm grateful that everybody's turned up and supported me, and as well as they did on the 4th of March. I wasn't expecting this sort of support.
2 weeks ago, the police turned up with bailiffs and they evicted you from your home.
Yep.
You're now back in your home.
Yep.
Why are you back in your home?
Because these kind people turned up and helped me get back in here. Very kind.
I've watched the video and I think it's criminal what the police did to assist the bailiffs, but that's just my opinion. What's your opinion?
That's my opinion. The police are the main problem. If the police enforced the law or knew the law would help and enforced it, and if they don't know it, find somebody that does, there wouldn't be any of these problems. They have causing these injuries through turning a blind eye to the people they're supposed to protect and serve. We're not being served or protected. That's my opinion.
Yeah, obviously for the past 2 weeks you've been living somewhere else and now you're back in your own home.
Yeah.
Just again, how do you feel about that?
I feel happy that I'm back in my own home, although it's an absolute dump because I've had all these people and dogs running around, security dogs running around, which is not nice, but...
I've just been speaking to the police officer who turned up. She appeared to be the lead police officer. She was just a constable. She weren't a sergeant. And she admitted this is a civil matter.
It is a civil matter.
And in that case, why did the police get involved when they're not allowed to get involved with civil matters, in your view?
Well, what they do is they stand back, so we're not doing anything because it's a civil matter, and then all the criminal matters happen. And then when you call the police, like I did, even though the other ones had left, they don't turn up to take a crime report. And I was left out the front waiting for them to turn up, dangling the carrot of we're coming. They was never coming. So I've actually done a crime report anyway online. And I'd already put a fraud report in the week before they turned up, and 2 stays of execution, one into the King's Bench and one into the Chancery Division. Both should have been heard on the Friday before as an urgent work. Both sitting there waiting for approval because they're all working together, in my opinion.
Being a stage 4 cancer sufferer, it's hard enough as it is.
Yeah.
And then to be evicted out of your home at this stage, it broke my heart when I watched it. And to watch all the people stand up for what is right, I think it's a good sign.
It's amazing.
That there's many people out there who know there's something wrong with the system that needs to change.
Yeah, the whole system needs to change. There is no due process. There's no rule of law. We've been through the courts. And to be honest with you, once you do start going up there, you realise that they're creating fake writs like this one. That's what it is. There's no judge's name. It cannot be issued from the Chancery Division as well as the King's Bench in the Central Office. And that's why these High Court Enforcement Officers do not serve them.
They put your house on the market already, haven't they, for sale?
Apparently for £150,000.
It's starting auction price.
Yeah. Well, how can a single trustee, put my house up for auction? How can he? And also, he'd run out of time to issue a writ of restitution because when he got so-called permission, which I don't think he got properly, none of it's been done properly, that ran out in 2020. So this is like, basically, they just carry on going. If you listen to one of the tapes, Scott Hines, who I now know is a certificated bailiff, not a High Court Enforcement Officer, he had no right to be here in the first place. They cannot delegate their powers unless it's a writ 53, which is a writ of control, which means for goods. That would make sense because you'd have thousands of them, but you wouldn't have that many possession orders, which this wasn't, and you wouldn't have a writ of restitution to back it up. So that's what's happening. They are just sending their pals round who have got no right to be there. The police are just hoodwinked, or they're part of it, and that's what's going on.
So how did it all start, this? What was it over?
This was to do with council tax. My partner had the bill in his name. If you look up the national debt line, you'll see that only a person whose name the bill is in has to pay it. Well, it was in his name. He'd paid it. And what happened was we met some people when I was leafleting at some stage, because I used to be a Maidstone Borough Councillor. Might as well put that out there, but I was nothing like any of them. So we was told that the people, the staff of the council, was blocking the court doors in the magistrates' court. And me being me, was like, hold up, what's going on here? So he didn't pay it. But what they did very cleverly, they flipped it and put it into my name. It wasn't in joint names, so they had no right under the General Data Protection Act, GDPR, they must tell you where they've obtained your data. Your data is your gold, not theirs. And Mason Borough Council won't answer, and the MP won't make them answer. So that's what happened there. It was a council tax. We went to the magistrates' court. Guess what? They was all blocking the magistrates' doors. So when it was my turn, I said to her, "Who are you?" And she flipped her, because she asked me who I was. I said, "More importantly, who are you?" She flipped her badge, and I got the name Tracy. And I said, "What's going on here?" She said, "Oh, this is a pre-paper hearing." I said, "There's no such thing." And of course, we know that they can't give liability orders. We know that the courts won't prove that they've even had anything heard. And all they ever give out is a notice. Well, I could give you notice. It means diddly squat. Where's the orders? So no order was ever made. And then when it came to the bankruptcy, this was a clever bit. We never knew. They flipped it after it was paid below the bankruptcy level. In those days, it was £750. And what they did was, even though it was paid, they moved it to the different year. They can't do that because we sent them a letter. But we didn't find out for a couple of years later in a witness statement that what they actually had done. But by the time you get to this stage, you go through the courts, the appeal courts, they lead you up the garden path. All of them do. They're all working together. And that's your lot. It's basically too bad, you didn't suss it quick enough, or whatever. And you cannot be made bankrupt in a county court hearing centre. There's one county court since the 22nd of April 2014. The rest are just satellite offices. So Maidstone Borough Council apparently filed a petition. I've never got any evidence from the court that they've done that. Filed it and said, too bad, we've moved the money, basically, which they can't do, into a holding account. But what I never knew was the girl that originally got the payment and the letter put it into the correct year. So this other one come along, I said, no, you can't do that. We want it put into the wrong year so we can get bankrupt. That's what they do. These people...
So they fabricated everything against you?
Yes,
to justify their actions?
Yeah, plus they want a building. They want a building development on the back. We used to have a beautiful big eucalyptus tree. It leant like the Leaning Tower of Pizza. One night, it just fell down. No wind. All on its own. Knocked the shed 8 foot up in the air. Of course, it had a protection order on it. Nothing was ever said. I stopped them putting 18 townhouses down there. They've got bungalows. And that is valuable building land because it backs onto that development. And I had a letter from somebody when they first did it saying, would you like to sell? It took them 2 years to build them. So this would be prime for somebody to pick up as a bargain. Building permission on the side for 5 beds, sell the bottom of the garden or build a nice £500,000 bungalow. You're in profit, aren't you?
So do you trust the police?
No.
And do you trust...
The courts? No. The judges? No. The councils? No. The lot? No.
Do you have any trust in anybody?
The people that turned up.
I think the people have the power as well, to be honest.
They
A lot of people exercise that power, do they?
No, because it's took me a long time to learn what they've done and that they can doctor these orders that are not coming out of the court. And they are being doctored on the EC filing system. Most people don't know what that is. An EC filing system is an automated system. Now that should come down with a complete black seal on it, but the clerks can go in and alter it and remove stuff. Because I've seen it on my own documents. Well, I would call it fraud. Yeah. That's why I put a fraud report to Kent Police. Because if this was a legit, it would have the judge's name for starters. It wouldn't say that it was issued from the central office. Now, what you don't realise is the central office is the Queen's Bench. Central Office Action Department, and then suddenly be sealed on the 8th by the Business and Property Courts. This is what you need to see. This is a freedom of information which is shown to the police, and it states quite clearly down the bottom that nothing was issued on the 5th of January from the King's Bench.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's like the King's Bench, they're all complicit.
The King's Bench, it says, the number of writ 68s issued by the King's Bench on the 5th of January, which was when Alex Chalk, I think, the Lord Chancellor, come on, how can he be a witness for a different date? He cannot. So if it come from the King's Bench, it should be sealed by the King's Bench. So what's happened is the number of writ 68s, the King's Bench have issued none, basically, nil on the 5th of January. So they was also asked about the Business and Property Court. There you go. The Business and Property Court, top line. Says,
Neither issued or sealed
there you go.
any writs.
Oh dear, what, the 8th of January? Isn't that funny?
What date was that letter?
This letter was done on the 9th of Feb. Quick off the mark for the EC filing.
Well, just for information now, I think that's quite damning evidence you're holding up there.
The police ignored it.
And the way they've dealt with it all matters. And the police, do you think they'll come back?
I've no idea if they come back. If they're working for the trustees or the councils, because the councils pay them, don't they? They collect their revenue through council
What are the
tax.
police doing about your fraud claim?
I've no idea. They've not actually. It's gone in. It's been submitted, and a complaint went in again today, but they haven't come back to me on it. I did laugh though. I think it's the IPCC or somebody, police, came back and said something about the police could do civil this, that, and the other on a warrant. I went, excuse me, what warrant? What does it say at the top of there? Writ 68 is not a warrant. So there's your damning evidence. Nothing was done on the 8th of January. There's your seal for Business and Property Courts. Nothing was done on the 5th of January for the King's Bench.
Yeah.
So I haven't made that up. All they had to do, the police, was ring those two places up. You'd ring up the ICC issues department, which is the Insolvency and Companies Court. That would tell you if that was right. And you'd ring up the King's Bench Enforcement and Issues team to see if they did it. They both can't do it.
Is there anything on those pieces of paper you want me to blur out? Or is it okay to show everything?
Show it.
Yeah.
There's nothing.
Finally then, what can you say to people who find themselves facing eviction in the future?
Well, try and work out if the paperwork's correct. He didn't even make an application for that.
But your
On the
paperwork
easy.
is correct.
My paperwork
and you
is
still got
correct.
evicted.
Well, this paperwork isn't correct, and he didn't. To get this, if it had been legit, he would have had to have made an application.
Yeah, so it's not correct, but you still got evicted
Exactly, because the police don't know their job.
because they're not legally trained.
Well, neither are we, but we can read.
Yeah.
And we know that, I took one look at that on the EC file, and because of all the information I've done on there and tried to submit things, I realised that not everything was showing as it should do. There is no case court files anymore. It's all EC file. Very important to know. Professionals, it's mandatory. Not for us.
Well, I just want to say thank you very much for that, Sheena.
You're welcome.
And good luck with the future.
Thank you.
Can I ask you, you've paid your mortgage off completely,
Yeah.
haven't you? So you don't actually own anything on your mortgage?
No.
And what was the initial council tax amount
I
for?
think originally, before the bankruptcy, it was like 1,400 quid.
Right.
So we halved it. So it was below the bankruptcy level of 750. And what we never knew, I should add this, that on the 1st of October, remember they did this apparently in September, it went up to £5,000.
How did it go up overnight like
Well,
that?
because, no, what happened was the bankruptcy threshold
Oh, right.
went up. So they couldn't have bankrupted me after October for 750 because it had increased to 5,000. So nowadays you need to have 5,000 owed.
Right,
In
yes,
those
that's
days
right.
it was only 750. £750. And they just moved the money and decide that they can move it. Doesn't matter that it took your data. Doesn't matter that you ask questions. And I think John's even asked the MP, Helen Watley, I think is how you pronounce her name, where did you move the funds? Who let them have the right to move the funds? And where is her data? Who did you get it from? 2 questions, won't answer. And she has all evidence of this. She has the corruption. So there is about as much use as chocolate for high guard, in my opinion.
I would love to go through, possibly, if you don't mind, what happened when you got evicted. Would you be able to, I'm going to let the dog out and pause this 1 minute because he wants to.
What's a
but
wee?
would you be able to just talk us through
I'll
that
try.
day? Thank
Yeah.
you. 1 moment. Okay, so if you could just take us through the actual day. Did you have the ambulance here?
What happened was, yes, because Lisa was upstairs. She come upstairs to me and I was saying, please don't leave me with these thugs, because they were a lot of them. And She heard them saying that somebody had called the ambulance and that I had to get a private ambulance. And she went, oh, I don't think so. And she got her phone out. And she rang up the ambulance service and they said, please stay on the line because I was having breathing problems. Right. And what happened? That Scott Hines directed them to grab her, including that girl that was here, to grab Lisa, and they dragged her out. So then the paramedics turned up, which I'm absolutely grateful for. They were trying to do their tests, and this Scott Hines, and that was all standing. So they shut the door, and luckily he was stood. So say that's the bed, he's there. The door came open, and it hit his foot, the paramedic, and missed his face, luckily. And this Scott Hines was basically trying to say, hurry up. And this one, luckily, stood up and said, hang on, she's entitled to privacy, and you're not entitled to her medical, know what's going on medically. We're just assessing her. And we've got other tests we've got to do. Because I was all wired up with all these, I don't know what they are, what they do your heart with. Yeah. So I'm laying there pretty naked, and he would have just walked through the door. So the paramedics shut the door. Scott Hines, it can't be anybody else because he was behind the door, punched it. So the paramedics rung up the police. So we thought the police were coming along. The police had absolutely no intention of coming along. That's why I ended up sat out the front. The police still didn't turn up. I wanted to file in person a criminal complaints to what happened. And that's what happened. I was blackmailed. It was basically Scott Hines was saying, I could stay here. Bear in mind, I can't look after myself. But with no power, even though they're using my electric and gas, no power. On my own, I could just about get to there. And I'd have all the security and the dogs downstairs. But I couldn't have anybody stay with me. So what option's that? That's blackmail.
Oh, you have a carer?
Well, no, my partner and everyone's looking after me.
For you.
Oh, yeah, of course he does. He's looking after. Yeah, he's looking after me, but I need somebody to look after me. But
just going to interject here, as a security officer myself,
yeah.
I've had the training, and it's something called a dynamic risk assessment.
Oh, no, there was none of that.
Yeah, well, that's to make sure that you are safe and well in what they did. I got the impression that they never even performed a dynamic risk assessment.
No, nothing.
And therefore they failed in their duty, and I do believe everything that they've done was unlawful.
Yeah, so do I.
But yeah, controversial as it is, sorry about that.
No, that's fine.
It's true.
So can I ask you, that was the first attempt, wasn't it, to repossess your property?
No, that was in 2019.
Right.
2019, they got another fake, writ 66, which is a writ of possession to enforce an order of possession that they get at the county court. Unfortunately for them, the order that they quote in this thing is the wrong date, as usual. You'll find they altered dates. They altered hearings when you took place. They put on there that it was, I can't remember what they said, but it was something like September the 4th. They tried to say that they had this order from the county court for possession. Well, not only did she not put what division to appeal to, which you must, it wasn't transferred up properly. Mm-hmm. All they do is they open an EC file without your knowledge, and then they start their documents. So what happened was, that wasn't heard that day at all. I think we missed it because we didn't get the thing. There wasn't. And then suddenly, the following Tuesday, that was Friday, following Tuesday, they made out they had an order on the 4th of September. Michael Goldstein turned around and said that date in one of his witness statements reflects the 31st. Sorry. No. It doesn't. No. You either sat that day and you heard it, or you did not. And they didn't. So there was no order made on the 31st of August, and the one on the 4th of September can't have been made because there was no hearing for that day. Do you see?
Yeah. So you had quite a few security turn up.
Yes.
And
the very first time, 2019, we had no paperwork at all. We had James King. They gave false names. They pretended there was High Court. We had the police at the time. Never got the body footage off of them. We couldn't manage to do anything. My foot was damaged because they hit the door of an industrial jack and battery ram. My partner, he just went to pieces. It hit my head. I had brain fluid coming out my nose. I had vomit. I couldn't see. I had double vision. What did they do? I came in here. James King grabbed hold of my arm in an army lock, and I hit him. There, look at my finger. But if he'd have been a High Court enforcement officer, I'd have got 2 years. He wasn't. No High Court enforcement officer turned up. What happened next? Got in my van, they'd arrested John and de-arrested him, had my children, and they said they had a warrant for questioning. So I thought, hold up, what warrant for questioning? So I couldn't undo the doors because I couldn't see. And I was on the phone to a barrister. I would never use a barrister again, or anybody. I just don't trust them. And he was telling me, oh, no, let them smash the windows in. And I went, no. So I got my daughter to open it. They arrested me, took me to the county court at Maidstone in a tiny little room with 2 male police officers, no female. Didn't want to let me go to the toilet. I had to say, I'm going to wet myself if you don't. No drink, no nothing, at least 4 hours before I got taken in for this questioning, before HHJ Backhouse, who's now gone. But it turns out because I never saw this warrant, when I got one from the court, it says arrest warrant for arrest. Then it says for questioning or disobedience of the court. So it's got to be one. Oh no, I will show you. Thick black writing for a thick black marker crossing out questioning and disobedience of the court. So what was I arrested for? You can't be for one. So what's going on? They extend your bankruptcies indefinitely when the person that's applying hasn't got the right to do it. Everything's wrong. When you go to the county court, I told you, if you oppose a bankruptcy, it has to go before a specialist judge. Not some Tom, Dick and Harry from the County Court Central London, Deputy District Judge. And I had another district judge, a good one, who they never put his name down on my record, even though we was before it, who told us they didn't have the jurisdiction. Because they tried to bankrupt me again. How can you bankrupt somebody again if they're already bankrupt? Mm-hmm. So that's what's happened. It was by hook or by crook they wanted this house.
Do you feel like you've been targeted?
Oh, yeah. Been targeted for years.
And why do you think that could be?
I think, if I go back a long time, it was because I was elected borough councillor. I wanted to become a Kent County councillor to expose what Children's Services was doing. That's why I agreed to do it. When I got in there, they had no intention, even if I won it, for me ever standing. The mayor was downloading child porn on his laptop. I was the only one that was not happy. I think the police arrested him and he resigned there and then. And there was a prolific paedophile in my ward, which is where I was actually representing. And there was a paedophile. He came down from Scotland. I think you can still find it online somewhere. If you Google Kent Police and Anne Widdecombe's office, and that all got reprimanded by a High Court judge. But he was. And a friend of mine has said to me, I know you're not supposed to look, but come and have a look at this guy. So I did. So I started asking questions. I had plainclothes detectives come to my house. Didn't know it at the time. That's why the gates are out there. One was called Detective Inspector Kilbride. Never got the other one's name. Big beefy guys. And I didn't have these in those days. I had like those slidey blinds. And the kids were like, Mummy, there's somebody at the window. I had no idea what was going on. So, yes, I'd say.
What year was that?
Oh, we're going back.
How many years roughly?
Well, I think I got in 2007.
Okay.
It wouldn't have been very long after that. Yeah. And then I just did that small term and got out of there. Mm. So I think the bankruptcy was probably to stop me standing, because it stops you standing. Not that they could pay me enough money ever to stand.
Right, yeah. So, yeah, it's like when you're an accountant, you're not allowed to be bankrupt to be an accountant.
There you go.
Yeah. There
you go. And the last thing that councillors want to do, because they all know what's gone on, is expose anything. Mm. That's the last thing they want to do. They've all got to go. Mm. If all the people that we had here on a council, it would change overnight.
Yeah, of course.
But you've got none. You've got somebody like me who's on their Todd. They all want you for their gain. But because I got myself on scrutiny committee, I could scrutinise. Well, they used to tell me I didn't turn up. It's really bad.
When did you get ill?
Oh, what with this? Mm. Last year, the end of last year. Well, it was before. It was actually the beginning, but I didn't know. So, it's a bit of a shock.
Yeah, I can imagine.
But on the other hand, I would rather get this out with my dying breath than miss it.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. Yeah. Because it's the truth.
Yes, of course.
I've got nothing to lose. I'm telling the truth. If I'm wrong, come sue me. Yeah.
So how vulnerable do you feel right now?
I feel less. I feel more vulnerable when everyone's gone because you never know with the police or the trustees or their solicitors or
They're
whatever.
all working together.
Yes, they all work together. Why is Maidstone Borough Council using outsourced City of London solicitors, J. Barins Limited, who happens to be obviously working for the trustee as well? A single trustee, that warrant I told you about that was blocked out, his partner, joint trustee, was James Paul Shaw. They made a joint application, or he did, Goldstein, joint trustee, for that warrant. Well, sorry, but James Paul Shaw is no longer qualified from the 1st of January 2017 and had resigned on the 31st of March. So how the hell could he have made a joint application?
Yeah.
This is what you're up against. Unless you know, or you've got a lawyer that is on the right side who's going to tell you the truth.
Which is very difficult.
Very difficult. And the one we went to, seriously, as far as I'm concerned, this barrister he was working for the other side, but I never knew that till I came back into my home and realised that he hadn't put the paperwork in with the stay that I'd obtained in the Queen's Bench. He just didn't bother. He filed it in Liverpool. He told us he was going to the transfer. He didn't. He just popped it in the post, pop it. And that's what happens.
Just for the record, you're not suicidal?
No. I'm too angry for that.
You're going to keep fighting this.
Yeah, I've got no choice. This is my children's inheritance.
Exactly. And are we allowed to share these videos?
Yes.
We have your blessing.
You have my blessing.
Okay. And do you have any other questions?
No, I don't.
It's quite a lot, isn't it?
No,
Yeah.
thank you so much, Sheena. The people stand with you, and we will do everything we can
Yeah, hopefully.
to, support you.
Well, if this helps one more person, I'll be happy. Just one.
Yeah.
Because you only need one and then another one.
Exactly.
And then what they're going to do, they're going to have to change their system. Because as far as I'm concerned, we're living in a communist state and we shouldn't be. There's no democracy going on anywhere. It's just stealing and theft without any accountability. You can complain as much as you like to the police.
And they just step down, don't they?
Or they just ignore it.
They step down. As soon as they get caught, they step down or they change position.
Yeah.
They don't go to prison.
No, Sheena Coburn, who moved that funds after her clerk had put it in the right year, just stepped away.
Yeah.
Not before she gave J. Barins a reference on their website, though, for selling her house and giving her one from and Maidstone Borough Council's reference for how wonderful they were and how she worked for them before.
Yeah.
So these people shouldn't be in this sort of power. And the councillors have got no power simply because they can't be bothered. They're too lazy. And even if they did have it, when I was there, the officers multiple times sent you on goose chases or overruled you, trying to expose anything.
If you feel that the councillors have no power, how then would you say the people could have any power if they created shadow councils, or if, at the moment there's a lot of people that are pushing their local councils and the councils keeps walking out.
Yeah.
How then do you think that they stand in a position of making a change?
Only if they could all get elected. But I'm telling you this, when we went to a postal election, the box has a little slit, about that size. You could probably get 3 or 4 in. We'd never been to a postal election. I think John was standing. So we turned up, nobody else there. This sealed box come out, all little padlocks. They opened it up and poured out big bundles in elastic bands. So we said, how did those bundles get through that locked box? They couldn't answer. Never, ever should they allow the chief executives, who's a returning officer half the time, of councils to run elections. Never. You can't trust them. Simple as that. If we're going to have proper elections, independent, somewhere else, nothing to do with councils, they're going to do whatever they're going to do, whoever they want in. I have no idea whether they wanted me in, but...
Are you aware that the council is also a private public body?
Well, I do know that they run partnerships, Midcamp Partnerships. Used to be called Midcamp Partnerships Services, now called Midcamp Services. So they're sort of farming it out internally. They'll say that that's not separate. They do have things where they do property, but I don't know about the rest. I've only looked at it from, what they're actually doing. And I don't think they should be having these partnerships.
No.
I mean, unless we can get proper elections, you know, a proper democracy, not this communistic state, we would stand a chance. Because even if we all stood, although I can't, if we all stood, unless you're all getting in, well, if you've got these officers, it's not who votes because they do crosses. Well, they've got little numbers at the bottom that can trace back who it is. They should be putting crosses in for a start. Even spoiled ballots get counted. But who counts them at the end? Who puts them in the bundles into a postal box and comes out in big plastic bands like that? Couldn't possibly go through that gap. Somebody's gone, oh, damn, they've turned up. Sling them back in, let's bolt it back up again. Not thought it through. But what do? You could go to the Queen's Bench, you found out afterwards and report them. But we didn't know that at the time. So...
Thank you. We're not going to take any more, but thank you so much, Sheena.
You're welcome.
Really appreciate this.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah, I hope you've learned something.